Shana Tova. It's an odd thing, isn't it, about how time moves and how we move in time. There's a part of us that feels like we were just here celebrating 57, 78, and now we're flipped over to the very next year. And then in other ways, we've been through a year where we feel like it's been the longest, most difficult year imaginable. We feel like we've been inside of a pinball machine. Remember those? Remember there was these great machines, these big glass and wood and electric and flashing lights, and the balls would bounce back and forth. And we're one of those balls. We're just bouncing everywhere, and lights are going off. You don't want to end up in the gutter, and so. But then, in order to stay out of the gutter, you get banged around. It's hard. But here's the thing. We're here. We made it. We have somehow managed to go around and back to the beginning again. We started the service with the words, "We return," which is an odd way of thinking about it because, in fact, yes, we return. The holidays keep going in the same cycle, but we're not the same when we get there. We are returning, but we've had experiences that reflect each of us in a new light, and we carry that light. And the way in which we're able to share it with the people around us is the means by which we can give a window of our lives open to the people we love and care about and to the people that we share life with. The older I get, the clearer it becomes that there are no wonderful awards waiting anybody who holds back. You don't get a prize for not sharing your pain, for not sharing your joy, for not sharing your angst, for not sharing your sorrow. You don't get an award. You were macho, you were brave, you were courageous. Who cares? If your heart is breaking, you have to open up. And part of growing up and growing old in this world is embracing that reality too. So the High Holy Days are all about facing that dreaded sense of mortality, which after all is each one of our inheritance. But it's also a challenge. What are we going to choose to do? How are we going to enter into a new year and actually say, I want to do something different. I don't want to do the same thing again. You might be one of those people that likes the same thing for breakfast and the same thing for lunch. You might be one of those people. I am not, but you might be, and geh gesundheit if you are. That's good because that keeps you happy pretty easily. But if just once, if you veer away from that, you'd be surprised what sriracha sauce tastes like. You'd be amazed at a ripe avocado. You know, it's a good thing. Point is simply, what will we choose to do to enliven, to open our lives to new possibilities, new experiences? It's in our hands, nobody else's. No one's going to come to us and say, here, let me make your life better. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. What will you do? That's a hard challenge. And that's why we're here. From tonight through to the next 10 days at the end of Yom Kippur, let's ask that question over and over again. What are the choices I'm going to make to bring more meaning into my life, to make it brighter, better, more interesting? Because there's so much. Rather than sitting and waiting for the inevitable to happen, there's so much that we can do to bring good stuff. One of the best things in the New York Times online is the failing New York Times, is that, sorry, I'll stop. I know I started early. If you go online, I think it's on Friday, if you get the, they send you, if you sign up for one of the several possibilities, you can subscribe to a daily morning and evening what's going on. And I think on Friday, if you scroll down long enough, it says, here's some good news. And it's not like, Barbara Goldberg just bought a chicken. I mean, it's really, which might be good for her, but it's actually, it's good stuff. And it really is good to read. You go, oh, God, that's right. It's not just, there's more. Why not take from that? Why not embrace that? Now, don't ignore, but why not embrace that which is life-affirming? Because it feels so much better, and it raises us up. And that's the direction we want to go. We have a new temple president. Her name is Stacy Schwartz. You might have seen her, and if you've been here for a while, you might have grown up with her. Or you might have served with her mom, Bonnie Millender, and known her dad, Lou Millender. May he rest in peace. And Stacy is, in her own right, a very special, warm, strong, not just mentally, but physically, she's a strong CrossFit president. And it's just such an honor to be working with her, continuing the legacy of the presidents that have come before her. And she will continue the service on page 11.
The first mitzvah in the Torah is, let there be light. So we are commanded in everything you do, be a menorah, a bringer of light. Live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion, and the radiance of your deeds will live after you. May our ideals burn bright, forever, unextinguished, and may we live our lives like the flames we kindle, always stretching upward, striving for the good, reaching for you.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, lehadlik ner shel V'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. This experience of standing on the bima and looking at you starting tonight, well, always looking at you, whether it's Shabbat or whatever, but just all of you and being so happy to see you. And given that this is my 21st year with you, we've gone through some stuff together. We've done a lot of celebrating and some weeping, some wondering, and it's just so special to be with you again on this Yom Tov, on this holy day. Before we continue, I don't know, Susan, I think what I'd like to do is ask everyone, if you would please turn to your left and right in front of you, because you're all really fun people. So if you turn to your left and right in front of you and behind you, please say, Good Yontif. Tell them your name. How long have you been at the temple? They made it. Good work. So I'm reading something. Let's see how it works. I'll just keep trying to listen
We
for.
did it last year with that.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. You know, there's a reason Rabbi Larry Kushner called Rosh Hashanah the annual meeting of the Jewish people. And I'm glad that some of you are seeing each other for the first time in a while. Maybe you're meeting someone for the very first time. I hope there'll be many other opportunities moving forward, not just through the holidays, but through the weeks and months to come and the programs and the special things that we do. That you will, in fact, have a chance to meet, engage with the people around you, and part of this very, very special community. On page 17 is Hineni. It's traditionally chanted by cantors in synagogues all over the world. And it's basically the cantor and the rabbi asking God to give us strength so that we might be able to be present for you. It's kind of chutzpahdik to lead services in a way, because in our tradition, I don't have any authority to pray for you. Zero. That's not what Jews do. That's why if someone ever says, pay me $5 and we'll say Kaddish for your relative, don't do that, because it's not true. If you want to pray, you pray, but no one prays for you. It's your choice. And what we try to do, and what this prayer is about, is to create the ambiance, the space, the energy for you in your own way, in your own place, to find the prayer that you have. Some of you are book people. Some of you are here under protest. Some of you are here just a couple times a year. Some people come a lot more often. For some of you, this is an adversary. I understand it's not a simple, okay, everybody, we're going to open our books and pray in unison. And that's fine. It's good to be a Reformed Jew, you know? And so what I would encourage you to do is take your curiosity, take your ambivalence, and instead of sitting on it impatiently, entertain it as you look at the book. And if you don't want to look at the book, just sit and pray from the prayers of your heart. And if you're not even sure what the word pray means, meditate. I prefer not take a nap, but if you need to take a nap also. But most of all, what we want to do is provide you with a special sacred space to focus on the things that matter most to you. What those things are? It's your decision. It's your path. Hineni is on page 17. Here I am again, without much to offer by way of moral worth. I have a rich collection of defeats. Maybe that's to your liking. I don't know. Do you? If I'm to be quite frank, your likes and dislikes have never been all that clear to me. Presumably, love is something you're in favor of. And I've found it possible to love, but never without a certain anguish. Whether that's the way you intended it or that's a problem all my own, I can't say. Can you? I've never wanted to pain others. I've never wanted to pain myself. I guess I can plead good intentions, but I needn't tell you about good intentions in the road to hell. I've often wondered, did you yourself intend, when you got it all going, that to live would be so complicated, to find a way in the world so hazardous? Did you have any idea at all that living would involve such confusion and such heartbreak? I can't be sure any of this will mean much to you. I can't even be sure that you exist. As more than a figment of my own mysterious psyche, it's a risk to open up to you. Who knows, I may be branding myself a terrible fool, but what's not a risk? What's guaranteed to be foolproof? So here I am again, praying for some modest bravery so that I can go on saying to you, here I am again. On page 15, if you please rise. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל יום חגנו. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל יום חגנו. כי חוק לישראל הוא משפט לאלוהי יעקב. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל יום חגנו. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל יום חגנו. We're on page 19. Please read with me in the Hebrew as you are able, and where it's going to stop for the date, which is on the third line in the Hebrew, Bishnat Chameshet Alafim Ushra Ma'ot Shivim Vatesha. And if you're going with the English translation below, it's 5779. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Yehi ratzon shenizkeh levirchotecha bishnat chameshet alafim ushva me'ot sheimim vatesha, Elohei olam, barech otanu ve'et kol beit Yisrael b'chudush yomenu, b'simcha u'v'shalom, b'nechama u'v'ometz lev, b'chilutz atzamot u'v'ruach etana. Yehi pri sfatenu mikubal v'ratzui milfanecha bifros hashana hachadasha. La'ad modim anachnu lach al matnat hachayim. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5779. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. And we all say, Amen. Hamevorach, Baruch Adonai Hamevorach, Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. On page 23, at the top. Bless Adonai, who spins day into dusk. With wisdom, watch the dawn gates open. With understanding, let time and seasons come and go. With awe, perceive the stars in lawful orbit. Morning dawns, evening darkens, darkness and light yielding one to the other, yet each distinguished and unique. Marvel at life, strive to know its ways. Seek wisdom and truth, the gateways to life's mysteries. Wondrous indeed is the evening twilight. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv haravim.
El chai v'kayam, tamid yimlach aleinu le'olam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv haravim.
Amen.
Show us the way, teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down. Ahavat olam.
show us the way, teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down. Teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down. Teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. On page 28. Yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol avavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha, b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha, v'derech, uv'shochbecha, uv'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam, al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha, leman tizkiru, v'asitem, ekol mitzvotai, Vitem kedoshim leloechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. We have this deep, long, ancient collection of stories that have helped us to define who and what we are, both from within the Torah, the rabbi's commentary on that, the commentary on the commentary on that, and then secular authors who have taken those same themes and expanded them, explored them, until really the repository of Jewish stories and how they come to help us define ourselves, it's just endless, and it keeps growing. Whenever we get to Mi Chamocha, it's a prayer that comes right out of the Torah. It comes out of the book of Exodus. And it's this moment of just sheer exaltation and incredulity. It's like, wow, God saved us. We don't know why, but you did anyway, and thank you. There's nobody like you. There's no other gods like you. It's just extraordinary. And I think sometimes we don't always zap ourselves with some of that amazement. You know, it's just to be Jewish is so, especially when you live in a place like Newton or Brookline, you know, it's pretty easy. You know, you can kind of go with the flow and, You know, there's matzah in the store, and there's a whole variety of yahrzeit candles, and you can pretty much do what you want, and you take it for granted. But we can't take this gift for granted. I think sometimes we think that to call ourselves Jewish, we have to sign up to one story. This is the official story. If you don't stick with the official story, you're not part of the team. It's not true. We all write our own stories based on the stories that we have been told. The only thing that abides, the only thing that holds us together, even if we do choose different stories, is the principle that there's something worth pulling us together. That the collection of the stories itself is an act of being family. It binds us. It makes this real. You might have a friend who's ultra-Orthodox and a friend who's, at Blue Ribbon, right now, having dinner, and they're eating pork, and like for you, you don't go, oh, that's the bad one, that's the good. We're all Jews. We all have different stories, but we're all bound by this common sense that there's something worth telling this story. There's something worth being and doing as Jews. And so that when our ancestors got to the shores of the sea, that beautiful story, and they go, who is like you? There's no one like you. This is extraordinary. One of the last times that women were allowed to be out as women leading everybody else was a great moment. Those things continue to inspire. And it is worth our while to embrace these stories, to hold them close, to re-examine them, to find in them meaning and worth. We have a Torah class every Sunday. This is not an advertisement for the Torah class, but we do have a Torah class every Sunday morning. And we're not saying you have to study it this way. You have to learn it this way. What you learn if you're sitting at a table with 18 people, there are 18 versions of the story. And then there's another 18 outside the room. Engagement. It's about engagement. Embrace the story. It's your story, it's my story. And you can tell it the way you want and live it the way you want, but it's our story. Page 34. Mocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Moshe u'Miriam zelianu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
Ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov u'galo miyad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai
Ba'al Yisrael. Eloheinu le'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu le'chayim, hashkimenu Adonai. Eloheinu le'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu le'chayim. Oh, Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomkeinu lechayim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomkeinu lechayim. Ashkivenu Orenu lechayim. We turn to page 245 for Mishaberach, the blessing that we do to remind us that it is in our hands to bring blessing to those in need, those who are ill at heart, sick, taking care of people who are ill, basically those who are carrying brokenness right now. To extend our love and our blessing is a means to provide the opportunity to build back up, to pick up the pieces and to keep growing, moving, loving. It's our custom to invite folks to share aloud the name of loved ones or friends they are remembering tonight who are ill. And if you'd like to say their name out loud, if you raise your hand so that we might hear those names before we sing together. We'll start in the front row and sort of work our way back. Betty? Evelyn? Linda? Alan? Steve? Martha? Dana? Joyce? If we could just take our blessing and energies that we bring to this new year and extend it to those who are ill. We pray that we can't make people miraculously get better, but we pray that our attention and love might bring a healing of the soul. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us sing, Amen. On page 37, Rosh Hashanah in the Pines. Darkness settles slowly across the horizon. The new year rises before us, its fragile moon awaiting our embrace. Heaven and earth entwine in their annual dance of recreation. A fissure appears in the firmament tonight, an entranceway into new beginnings. Out beyond the swales, the sea expands and contracts, keeping time to the thrumming of the universe. Under this Rosh Hashanah sky, the path before us is uncertain. All we can do is hold each other tight as we make our way home. If you'll please turn to page 40 and rise. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Mevorach Leolam Ol Me'almaya Yitbarach. B'richu tush bechata v'nechemata. Amen. Page 42. We continue with the High Holy Day Tefillah. Lai, 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 lai. Ya la, lai, 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 lai. Ya la, lai, 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 lai. Ya la, 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 ya la, 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 la. Ofi agid teilatecha, la 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 Adonai, na 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 svatai tiftach, na 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 ofi agid teilatecha. Svatai tiftach, na 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 ufi agid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומע חסדים טובים.
וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות אמהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה.
זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים.
מלך עוזר, מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך שמו.
מגן אברהם ועזרא שרה.
אמן. הגיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים את אימתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מימיתו מחייב, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך שמו.
וחיי הכל.
אמן.
הקדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, ואין אלוהים מלבדך. ככתוב, ויקבע אדוני צבאות במשפט, האל הקדוש נגדל בצדקה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
Amen. Please be seated. We continue silently to page 66. ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך שמו.
עושה השלום.
Amen. Jessica, be still my heart. If you ever get cynical about prayer, she can change your mind. On page 76, we continue with Avinu Malkeinu, the first time that we'll say it over the course of these next 10 days. And they are such plaintive pleas. These are not little things that we're talking about. And they're not just for us. We're challenging God. God, our parent, our leader. It says, act towards us as befits your name. Bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us. Allay the harshness of the decree against us. Inscribe us in the book of redemption and renewal. We're saying, God, please, give us this gift of renewal and possibility. Let us live in this new year, and not just us, but everyone around us. We're not saying, give me. When we say give us, we're talking about our family, our congregation. We're talking about give all human beings. Avinu Malkeinu is a prayer about redemption, not just for the Jewish people. We're talking about to redeem the universe. And it's a melody I know that we hear, and it clicks so many different meanings. It pushes so many buttons. And we join in praying this prayer on page 76. If you will, please rise. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim, Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Please be seated. Those of you that have known me for a while, you know that when I go on vacation, well, probably not all, I am not the most adventurous person in the world. Kayaks, they look interesting. I watch people who seem to elegantly glide in them. I always imagine at 3 strokes I'll be under the water, so I wave. I see people ocean swimming. Of course, we were there in July before the great migration of white sharks. But I thought, how lovely for people that love to swim in the ocean, as opposed to opening up a chair and sitting looking at them, which is sort of my speed. I go with Taj Mahal's great blues singer, his great song called Built for Comfort, Not for Speed. I've always appreciated that melody. Anyway, so I don't often go I never go ocean kayaking. I respect people that do, including my wife and her brothers who grew up in a family where if you were doing nothing, it was considered to be sinful and possibly depraved. You had to be doing something. You had to be active. And so on vacation, what they do is they do more stuff. And that is not my speed. I am so busy during the year, I'm not interested in being busy on the Cape. I don't want to be not busy. And so I do a lot of watching and sleeping and reading and listening to music. And it occurred to me that I'm missing something, but that a thing of FOMO, fear of missing out. No matter what you're doing, if you have that, you're always worried you're not doing what other people are doing that sounds more interesting than what you're doing. And I don't want to give in to that. I'm fine. I'll just live with what I live with, and that's fine. And but I'm aware of the fact our patriarch Jacob had a dream after he fled from his murderous brother Esau, who was ticked off for a really good reason. And as he's sleeping, he has a dream. Or is it a vision? We're not quite sure. And in that vision, there's a ladder going up to the heaven, and there's angels coming down and going up the ladder. And that is the entry point. He is being shown with neon lights, as it were, how to get to God. Only he stays curled up in his sleeping bag. And then he wakes up, he goes, Oy, Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. God was in this place, but I didn't even know it. Why? Because I was curled up in my sleeping bag and I didn't go any further. So I think about that sometimes, and I think I spend a lot of time curled up. You know what I mean? And you miss out. And so on the Cape this summer, my wife and brother-in-law, my wife is a rabbi, her older brother Jonathan is a shrink, and like lots of shrinks, I don't want to make a generalization, shrinks are not big religious people. They have a lot of cynicism about religion as being an aspect of an immature character. And you know, if you listen to Freud, if you read Freud's stuff about religion, you know, Freud is very clear, as he always is, dismissive of religion. And a lot of psychologists are. It's a lower level, and you get more mature. Then you realize the world, it's up to you. You're in it. It's existential. Choose it, lose it, whatever. And so that's kind of my brother-in-law. One day, they were out kayaking, and they were kayaking in the bay. We're out around Orleans, and so they weren't in the ocean, but they were in the bay. And you might think, well, that's easy. Well, when the wind is blowing and the tide is going out and you're in a kayak and you're coming in, it's called hard exercise. So they tell me. It looks that way. Though this particular tableau I did not witness. And they were really, they were working hard and really sweating, each of them in their own kayak. And as they were getting closer to their destination, exhausted, they saw another kayak up ahead of them, a few hundred yards. And it wasn't moving very much. Indeed, it was slowly drifting backwards. And they thought, okay, we're working hard here. Should we check or not? Should we bother to look? And so, luckily, my wife said, yeah, that's the ethically right thing to do. The doctor said, maybe somebody's sick. It's a good combination. And so they kayaked over to this kayak, and there inside the kayak was a man in his 70s who was clearly not okay. And they said, "Are you okay?" And he could only really mumble an answer. And it was clear that he was in significant distress. He wasn't having a heart attack, but there was something, he wasn't having a stroke, but there was something wrong. But he was so cold and he was shaking, and so they rigged up a tow rope, and in this, the tide coming in and the wind, they struggle to the shore. He manages to point to a house maybe 500 yards away that is his home. They think he's pointing. And they get him to shore, and at first he doesn't want any help. Like I said in the beginning of the service, so I can do, okay. No, you're not okay. They manage to get his kayak to shore. He can barely walk to the house. They get him to the house, and it turns out that he has Parkinson's, and he didn't take his meds before he left because his wife wasn't with him. And so he didn't take his meds. He's now off by about 4 hours, and the effects of not being on his meds is starting to show. He's in distress. They get him back to the house. He points to where his meds are. My brother has to literally open the pill bottles for him, even though they're screwed in the way they're supposed to be when you get old, you know. They have to open them up and give him the medication, which with difficulty he's able to take. They call his wife, and she's just so ticked off at him. Like, it's not, "Oh, honey, are you okay?" It's like, what were you thinking? You know that feeling you have? Right? You know you're supposed to be going, "Oh, honey, I love you," but the first thing is, "You idiot! What are you doing?" And they made sure he was okay, and they left. And my wife says, this was no coincidence. This is God's hand. Because if we hadn't been there, this man, well, he might not have died because he hadn't taken his meds. He would have been stuck in that kayak. It would have drifted into the weeds. No one knew he was there because his wife was still in Burlington, and he was alone in this boat. He could have died of exposure. Maybe not, but maybe. They saved his life. My brother-in-law, the shrink, said, "So, Johnny, how about for you?" He said, "That was a good thing we were there. But you don't think you were, like, sent there? That you were not somehow part of a divine plan?" And he actually stopped for a minute and said, "I'll go this far. We were in the right place at the right time for that man." And my wife said, "Well, then we both agree. We both agree." Where are we supposed to be? When are we in the right place, and when are we in the wrong place? Because both things happen. Both things really do happen. And I would tell you, if you listen to your heart, if you follow your neshama, I promise you, and if you're not a believer, I promise you that your intuition will enable you to know that sometimes you're in the right place doing what you're supposed to do. That you pull over to help someone you don't know and you think, well, there's a chance, when these days you're afraid to do anything. Someone knocks on your door, they need to use the phone, you point to the 7-Eleven. Of course, they don't have payphones anymore. But you worry. I'm afraid of strangers. But we're Jews. Part of the command that God gives us is to know the heart of the stranger, because we ourselves were strangers in the land of Egypt. And we know when we're in the wrong place. We know when we're in a place and we know there's something wrong, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. And sometimes that's in a classroom, sometimes that's when you're shopping, sometimes that's in a marriage, sometimes that's in a business partnership. And to fail to listen to that is not to connect to a truth that is deep and significant. On this Erev Rosh Hashanah, as we contemplate where we belong and where we don't belong, we pray to God, or we just we ask for more strength from wherever it comes from, that we might be brave enough to listen, to dare to believe in this big, crazy, anonymous, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour world. To believe with all our heart that each one of us every day is making a difference. That each one of us can save a life in a dramatic way or in the smallest, most insignificantly seeming way. Each one of us is powerful. Each one of us is a being filled with divinity. To wake up instead of staying tucked up in that sleeping bag or in that beach chair, maybe just to get up a little bit more once in a while and say, maybe God is in this place. And if so, it's time to do something about it. Like, listen. ואנוכי לא ידעתי יש אדוני במקום הזה ואנוכי לא ידעתי יש אדוני במקום הזה זה, ואנוכי לא ידעתי.
יש אדוני
במקום הזה, ואנוכי לא ידעתי. יש אדוני במקום הזה. יש אדוני במקום. יש אדוני. We're on page 82. Joanna and Bernard Ravina will open the ark for Aleinu. If you'll all please rise. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש. Page 85. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך. Thanks a lot. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. It is, of course, a time of year that we remember people that we have loved and have lost. On Yom Kippur, as on the end of other holy days, all the lights in the back will be lit. All those who are remembered, plus all the names that we hold in our hearts, family, friends, people we worked with, neighbors. We remember all of them and pray for strength to move into the future by cherishing those names, those people, and embracing their presence, how they transformed us. This week, we recall the yahrzeit for these individuals: Samantha Bachman, Alexis Bachman, Max Derby, Alan Fain, Richard Gordon, Rose Green, Estelle Greenfield, Saul Katz, Bert Lang, Marianne Lassar, Rose Levin, Sandra Levine, Daniel Lewin, Judith Mizell, David Reddick, Herb Siegel, Leon Scheinfield, Edward Swartz, Marion Wasserman, and the Shloshim for Herbert Cohan, Daniel Jarrow, and Edith Pastor, who have died in recent days and weeks. The memories of all of them are with us as we turn together to page 90 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam me'olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei kudsha b'richu. Le'ela u'le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who brings peace to the heavens bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. And let us all say amen. If you'll please be seated. Stacy Schwartz has some announcements for us for the coming days.
Shana Tova. I want to wish every one of you a very happy and a healthy new year. Thank you, Rabbi Stern and Susan and Jamie and Jessica for such beautiful, beautiful music this evening. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow for the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Our early service is at 9:30, late service is at 12:45. And in order for us to run on time, I ask that when you leave the early service, please take an empty bag and fill it up during the week and leave as promptly as possible so we can start the late service on time. The list of food items is stapled to the bags. This year we're donating to the Newton Food Pantry, Greater Boston Food Bank, and the Boston Medical Center for Preventative Food Pantry. And of course, salmon and raisins for the Jewish Family and Children's Service. Tomorrow morning, you're going to receive a program book with all exciting and interesting events for the year. So take it home, take out your calendars, write them all down. We are looking forward to some wonderful programming, and I hope you will all take advantage of what we have. The second day of Rosh Hashanah, we have our own Jeff Tarmy, who is going to be speaking, and he's going to share his journey from sickness to health with all of us. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Shana Tova.
Thank you. If you have little ones, we have a family service at 8:30. That is, if you have children that tend to run around like pinballs that I mentioned at the beginning of the service, don't worry if you think, oh, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to, they're not expected to sit through anything. So don't worry, it's always a fun service with music and some horn in the end, and all in all, it's a way of introducing our kids to Rosh Hashanah in a way that feels good and wonderful for them, and hopefully for you too. Some people whose kids are grown up like to come. It's kind of fun, and it's like being a grandparent. When you're done, you hand them off, and this way you don't have to even begin to take them to begin with. You just sit and watch and enjoy. So we hope that you will keep that in mind as well. Elise, anything else? In that case, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise. And if you are 13 years old or younger, not yet bar or bat mitzvah, would you please join us on the bima? And I'd like to say to Jamie, thank you as always for the magnificent music. Jessica Eyre, who started here, how old were you? 7 years old when she started here, and I was so much taller than you then. And I think you will agree with me that to be able to see our children become remarkable adults is one of the best reasons for longevity that I know, and it is just extraordinary to be in your presence, and I am so honored that you share your love of Judaism in your music, because it makes all the difference for all of us. The bad news is we don't have any juice for you. The good news is you get to eat the apples and honey. All right, is that good? Oh, okay, just want to make sure that's all right with you guys. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol v'amanu mikol hashon b'kidshanu b'mitzvotav. V'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava et yom hazikaron hazeh yom teruah mikra kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim dvarcha emet v'kayam la'ad. Baruch atah Adonai melech kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. Amen. L'chaim, l'chaim. I just realized all these years we buy Manischewitz because we think we don't have, let's not buy any more Manischewitz. Okay? There's all this great kosher wine. It just occurred to me, like, why? I mean, I don't need to stand up here with cheese and crackers, but it would be nice, you know? Anyway, I digress. All right, and now, who has the next bar or bat mitzvah? When are you up? March. Do we hear anything earlier? February? Gentlemen, if you'd please remove the challah cover. Yeah, good, ready, go. Excellent. Would you please put it on the podium? Nicely done. It got to be basketball, I understand. And now, together, would you please join me in the motzi? 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. I'm going to cut this guy, but there's one more thing to do. Now, how do we give you the apples and honey without dripping it all over the bima? I'm sort of thinking about that now. So what I'm going to ask you to do is when you take your apple and honey, to take one hand and dip, and the other hand goes underneath. Then you can sort of lick it later, okay? That's what we do in my house. So let me cut some of this up first.
And while we're waiting, everybody should turn to page 94 for the most wonderful ending song, an oldie but goodie, Adon Olam.
It'll be our background music as we get to the blessing. When did you hear it first? That's the question. Yetzer nivra, yet nasa bechef. On the spot. Shemo nikra, hazai melech. Shemo nikra. Stay up here though for the apples and honey. Yeah, I'll put this for the apples and honey. Now, take a apple, everybody, dip it in the honey, and then, we'll get a plate. Where are the plates? Just take an apple if you don't want the honey, but if you want the honey, dip it, and then put it on your plate, please. We can do this. Oh, yeah. This is easy. Don't eat it yet, though. Just put it on the plate, dip it good. Okay. And if there's any left over, I'm sure you're going to want to come up here and do this too. Okay. No sprinkles, though. That's the problem. Everybody have an apple that wants and needs? Yehi rotzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu, shetechadesh aleinu shana tova uvriya umitzuka. May it be your will, Adonai our God, that we have a good, sweet, and healthy new year. May it be your will. Amen. Shana Tov, everybody. Shana Tova. Good Yom Tov. You can now eat.
Why did I bother learning it so well? I'm telling you, tonight no one said your voice. It's all about the heart. Yeah, as always. It really, we feel you. You might not even, but we really do. Come see my children because I want to meet you. This is my first. I just want to introduce you to the fan club. I just want to introduce you to the fan club. Hi. You know this.